You board the plane before me. I deserve priority boarding more than you, regardless of your health concerns.
r/EntitledParents. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Mom Can't Fathom Why a Disabled Kid Gets Priority Boarding, from user Egglestein. After that, entitled Student versus Justified Entitled Teacher, from user Trollblazer LLC. After that, entitled Motorist Meets Karma, from user Blue Shadow 24. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories. And if you're an author who would like me to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories every single day. Entitled Mom Can't Fathom Why a Disabled Kid Gets Priority Boarding. Another day. Another post about people being jerks about my disability. I get it, I guess. I'm 16 and look relatively healthy until I pass out or fall down a flight of stairs or can't breathe and end up in the ICU. Anyways, I was going back to school yesterday via plane. I was alone for this particular flight. A short summary of me. I'm 16 and have enough health issues that give me the perks of being disabled that entitled people really want. I made it through the airport so far. Air travel can be a hassle for me depending on which airport and which TSA agent I have, but it was going relatively smoothly. I have a carry-on backpack with my phone and stuff and an entire suitcase that is marked with medical equipment. Please handle with care. Inside that, I have my dozens of meds, nebulizer, neb vials, oxygen tubing, etc., etc. Usually that suitcase and its little tag keep me from getting jerked around by the general public, but apparently not today. I'm waiting for my flight, which is scheduled to start boarding in 25 minutes exactly. This is usually when I go up to the counter and state my need for priority boarding. I answer the relevant questions, provide documentation if asked, and voila. I get a new boarding pass that gives me extra time and allows me to sit in the bulkhead seat. I'm talking with the agent and she's really sweet. So after she wraps everything up for me, we chat for a second and I talk about how crazy busy it is. I also work in customer service, so I can empathize. Entitled Mom is standing behind me, waiting to talk to the agent. I step aside and go over to wait for my flight. I sit down on the ground and pull out my laptop to work on my personal writing. I am wearing earbuds, but I can kind of feel that weird sensation where someone is staring at you. So I take them out and look up to see entitled Mom complaining and moaning to the agent at the counter about me getting priority boarding. Entitled Mom is shooting dagger glares at me. I infer that she is mad about my priority boarding and therefore must be angry at how a seemingly healthy kid got to board before her and her little spawn. I now start to pay attention to the conversation. We've got me, disabled teenager who gives no hoots. We've got entitled Mom. We've got Spawn, her 9-year-old son. We've got CL, agent at the counter.
Excuse me, but why does this teenager get to board before us?
I'm sorry, but that information is private.
It's not fair. She's just a liar and a freeloader. She doesn't need to board early.
This young lady has a very valid reason and is protected by airline policy. What exactly is your reasoning for requesting priority boarding?
My son right here is very young and needs help adjusting to the plane. You allow parents and kids extra time to board?
Ma'am, your son is 9 years old. That policy does not apply to him anymore.
What the heck? I want to speak to your manager.
I step in to intervene because I work in customer service and have dealt with many Karens. It's easier to have another person on your side. Excuse me, ma'am. I am allowed early boarding due to federal law and airline policy. Please do not take it out on the agent right here. If you have an issue with my boarding, you can speak to me instead.
Exactly. Why can you board early? You don't meet any of the policies. Grow up and take some responsibility.
I don't know where the heck she got that from. Being I am 16, traveling across the country alone with a disability, I'm pretty darn responsible. I am disabled. I've got plenty more reasons to board early than you and your kid. If you so like, I will board normally and be unable to inform the flight crew of my disability and proper procedure to help me when I am in distress, which means we might have to make an emergency landing. I'm sure you'll like that, because it will delay your arrival by a day. Would you like me to do so? I'm standing there, looking like I give no hoots, per usual, and have my award-winning face. Entitled Mom looks taken aback and is an epitome of the shocked Pikachu meme.
But you aren't old. You can't be disabled if you aren't old.
Well, for your information, I am going back to school a few days early so that I can spend 3 days in the hospital seeing a variety of specialists, having a battery of tests, and possibly having a feeding tube placed. Disability does not discriminate based on age. Now, if you will excuse me, I'm going to sit back down before I pass out. That shut Entitled Mom up, and she slunk back to her row of chairs to sit and wait for her boarding zone to be called. I waited a few minutes, and then got up to be at the very front of the priority boarding line. I enjoyed a peaceful flight and enjoyed seeing Karen be stuck in the back of the plane waiting to deplane while I was the first one off. Next we've got Entitled Student versus Justified Entitled Teacher. Hi there, Mr. Reddit. I've been watching you for a few weeks now, and it reminded me of a personal experience of an entitled student versus a justified entitled teacher. I am a native English-speaking person, and I am not on mobile, so if there are any spelling mistakes, it is all my fault. I give you full permission to use my story for a video. Now, on to our characters. We have Entitled Student, our main character. We've got Miss Karen. She's our entitled teacher. Her actions were justified in this story. We've got Miss Entitlement, another entitled teacher who is partially to blame for this. We've got Innocent Heckler 1, who provoked Entitled Student. We've got Guest Teacher. This took place in 11th grade and was the perfect storm of entitledness from all sides. This started with Entitled Teacher, Miss E. She assigned a group project and wanted it completed by the end of the school week. Keep in mind, she assigned it on a Wednesday, did not let us work on it in her class to finish it. Our main character, Entitled Student, and his entitled partners waited until the very last day and worked on their project throughout the day. This leads us to our entitled interaction. We were in Miss Karen's class, 2 hours before Miss E's class, and we had a guest teacher. Miss Karen brought him in to explore the world of poetry with us and even have a chance to publish our compositions, but that's for another story time. It was crunch for Entitled Student and his entitled partners. The four had gathered around a table in the back of the room, spread out their poster board, and went to work. While the rest of the class was practicing their rhymes, Team Entitled was busy gluing pictures down and rehearsing their lines for their presentation. It's super obvious and distracting. We were all wondering why Miss Karen didn't stop them. Guest teacher told us he'd be right back as he needed to go to his car to get some additional supplies, and Miss Karen told him that was okay and that she'd walk around the room to check everyone's progress. As soon as guest teacher left, Team Entitled got even louder. You could hear everything from the snipping of scissors to Entitled Student 2 practicing her introduction. Miss Karen made her rounds, and when she got to the back of the class and saw the chaos, she looked at them, put her hand on her hip, and said, "What on earth are you doing?" Entitled Partner 2. "We were trying." Entitled Student interrupts.
"We need to finish this project, Miss Karen."
Miss Karen. "No, absolutely not. Not in my classroom."
"We need to finish this now, or else we'll fail."
First of all, we have guest teacher, and that's rude. Secondly, I am not going to let you work on another teacher's assignment in my class. That is your problem, not mine. Entitled Partner 1.
It's okay, entitled student. We can work on it later.
While packing their supplies away. Entitled Student.
I told you, if we do not finish this project, we will fail. We need to finish this right now, and clearly guest teacher has left.
Miss Karen. If you and entitled partners weren't so involved in this project, you'd know that guest teacher is coming right back. Now, I said it once, and I'm not going to say it again. Get your poem book out and practice your rhymes. Miss Karen walked back to her desk as entitled partner 2 had packed everything away by this point. Entitled student was furious, his face becoming cherry red. He stood up, slammed his chair in, and began to stomp to his assigned seat while cursing under his breath. Miss Karen. What was that? Speak up. Entitled student ignored Miss Karen and continued trudging back to his seat. Innocent Heckler 1. What's wrong, entitled student? Entitled student.
Fool, please, I don't need your comment.
Entitled partner 3. Bro, calm down. It's not that serious. We can work on it later.
Shut up! I'm trying to help you out.
The rest of his team just watched, and the class began first to chuckle, then laugh at the scene, and this further enraged entitled student. However, he did get back to his seat, but did not pull out his rhyme book to do the assignment. At this point, guest teacher comes back and walks around the class, answering questions and checking on us. He finally gets to entitled student. Guest teacher. I need you to write something, son. Just write how you feel.
I'm not in the mood.
Miss Karen.
Go to the office right now.
Good. I didn't want to be in here anyway.
Entitled student walked out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Miss Karen apologized profusely to the now confused guest teacher, and we continued with the lesson. You'd think this is the end, but as the bell rang and we left to go to the next class, entitled student was standing right beside the door, glaring at each of us individually as we walked out. He didn't say anything, but his look still stays with me to this day. Entitled student and Miss Karen never got along after this encounter. Next we've got Entitled Motorist Meets Karma. Hello, Mr. Reddit. Thanks for reading all my posts so far. It's really awesome to hear them read, and I hope you enjoy this one. Those who read my posts will be happy to hear that this entitled person's story doesn't include the hotel I work at. Not all my entitled encounters happen at work. This is a short little tale that includes an entitled motorist and some delicious pro-revenge. There is no dialogue in this story, so I apologize, but enough rambling. It's time to get this story rolling. So this happened several years ago, when my kids were 2 and 4. We were driving into town to take the kids to go see a movie. I forget which one. The movie theater is several towns away from us. It's a 25-mile drive with a few small towns in between, so you have to slow down once in a while. So I was driving through one of these towns at a brisk 35 miles per hour. At this point, I should clarify, I drive the speed limit almost exclusively, especially when my kids are in the car. I was talking with my wife about the latest Kingdom Hearts game, Dream Drop Distance 3D, wondering when Kingdom Hearts 3 would be released. This should give you an indication on how long ago it was, when I noticed a red car driven by entitled motorist rolling up behind us like we were standing still. I pay him no mind and continue driving along at the posted speed limit of 35 and continue my conversation. I see entitled motorist getting increasingly frustrated in the rearview mirror, but I am in a small town. I am not speeding up, not with my kids in the car. Tough luck, buddy. All of a sudden, entitled motorist screams past us at over 60 miles per hour in a no passing zone, I might add. He narrowly missed an incoming car. I'm irritated and start complaining how impatient people can be when suddenly, without warning, Entitled motorist slams on his brakes right in front of us. I have ADD, attention deficit disorder, and have learned to use it to my advantage, meaning I notice my surroundings and am always hyper alert and can react on a moment's notice. I remember being thankful of this fact because my ADD gave me the quick reaction I needed to slam on my brakes to avoid hitting this jerk. As my van came to a stop, I noticed entitled motorist ranting and raving at me from the driver's seat and waving his arms while flipping me the bird. I start to get out to confront entitled motorist. He just put my kids in danger. I was ready to throw down. But before I even get a foot out the door, he takes off at a fantastic speed that had to be well over 55, squealing his tires as he left. I sit there for a few seconds, red hot and fuming. How dare this jerk put my family in danger because I dared to drive the speed limit and it wasn't fast enough for him. But realizing there's nothing I can do, I get back in and make sure my family is okay. My kids were crying, having been startled by the sudden stop, but everyone is fine. We continue our drive to the movies. Now, this wouldn't be a pro-revenge story if that was the end of it, and nowhere near as satisfying. Oh no, this is not the end of the story, kiddies. You see, we continue driving along for about 5 miles or so when we notice police lights in the distance. As we approach, we see the same exact red car that had just harassed us. A state trooper had apparently pulled him over for speeding. This was just too perfect. A wicked smile crept across my face, and my wife took one look at me and knew what I was planning instantly. State trooper was walking back to his car and looked to be about to let entitled motorist go when I pulled over right behind him. Entitled motorist noticed us pulling in and began watching us. I waved state trooper over and I introduced myself, asked him what entitled motorist was pulled over for, speeding, and then told state trooper what entitled motorist had done to us only a few minutes ago. State trooper's face hardened. He thanked us for the information and sent us on our way. As we passed entitled motorist, the look on his face as he recognized me and realized I had just talked to state trooper. It was delicious. As I passed, I couldn't resist giving him the one-finger salute, smiled, and waved by. I'm not sure what happened to him, but as we drove away, I looked in the rear view and could see state trooper putting entitled motorist in handcuffs. And congrats to our Regenerals of the day. Spicy Boy, Love Anime for Life, Jennifer, Miller 22 Serolf, and Adam Gaming. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by dropping as many Rees as you can in the comments below.